Jaguars owner Shad Khan doesn't speak much, but he spoke and said a necessary mouthful. I'll tell you what it is in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, Duval? What's happening? Here on Locked On Jaguars, we thank you for making us your first listen because it's your team every day. Glad to have you along with us for the ride here. Make sure you tap in wherever you get your podcast, over on the YouTube page, at the Locked On Jaguars YouTube page, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Make sure you tap in. We got a good show for you today, but I got to let you know first and foremost that today's show is brought to you by Game Time. That's right. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time, man. It's also time for us to thank the everydayers for joining us here on Locked On Jaguars and to welcome any new listeners to Locked On Jaguars. Thank you for being here. All right, listen, here's what we're going to run down today, right? What nearly happened with Brian Thomas Jr. in the draft? I'll tell you, it has something to do with the opponent that they faced this week. And whether it's not to dilly-dally around and try to get extra third-day picks when you got your guy right in front of you, why winning is the only option. We need to classify what winning is. We'll do that in segment number 2 because winning could be just win more than you did, or it could mean to totally win everything. We'll break that down. And why are we talking about it? Because Shad Khan, the owner, spoke out. It's game week. Shad Khan had recently spoken out earlier about the expectations for this year for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And now I'm going to tell you exactly what he said. I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to talk about the significance of it. I hope y'all ready, all right? Here's an article on NFL.com. It says, when Jaguars owner tabbed his team's 2023 collapse as an organizational failure and said he expected his team to win. Now, he meant it. If there was any question, he made it clear to his team at the dawn of training camp, as was revealed in the club's latest episode of, quote-unquote, The Hunt, which was released this week. Quote-unquote, about a month ago, we celebrated the city's partnership with the Jaguars and the approval of funding for a new stadium of the future, Khan began. So I met with the reporters, and the discussion obviously quickly turned to football and was quoted. For us, winning now is the expectation. So really, I've been looking forward to tonight to set the record straight. Now check this out, y'all. He says, I was not misquoted. And let me just repeat, winning now is the expectation. That is NFL.com. That is from Grant Gordon, digital content creator. We appreciate that. So now that we've given credit, we've properly quoted Shad Khan and given credit to the article and its origin, I'm going to tell you what it really means in WIG terminology. WIG terminology means y'all better win or I'm going to run y'all up out of here. WIG terminology is what you're complaining about now. I gave you everything you asked for. You can't win with all of that stuff. That's all the stuff you asked me for. I'm going to tell you right now what else he said when he doubled down on it. I ain't stutter. What, you thought I was playing? I said what I said. Yep, that's exactly what I meant. You can read the tea leaves all you want to, and you can try to figure it out and try to have all of these mental gymnastics all you want to, but let me be clear. I have given them everything that they asked for. They've had high draft picks. I've gone out in free agency and spent almost as much money as anybody in the league. I re-signed a whole bunch of people and gave them a bunch of money. I let them fire some coaches. They told me that was the problem, and now they got a whole bunch of new guys coming in. So basically, yeah, what y'all thought I was going to, and this is me paraphrasing Shad Khan now. This is me acting like the wig version of Shad Khan, the barbershop version of Shad Khan. What you thought I said? No, I'm telling you exactly what I said, and I'm telling you exactly what I mean. That, to me, is the best thing he has ever done for this franchise. I'm other than all of the money and the investing in the community and all of that. Shout out to him. I'm talking about from a football perspective. The best thing I have heard come out of Shad Khan's mouth is the fact that he said, "You heard what I said." And basically, he didn't say it, but to me, that's exactly what he said. I did not stutter, not one bit. What, you want me to repeat it again? You damn right they better be winning. And I don't blame him one bit. And to me, I love the fact that he did this. So many people have talked in the past about Shad Khan and how active he is and how quick to act he is with his soccer team overseas when they don't win. And so many people talk about, well, he's somewhere on his yacht or somewhere in a penthouse in Chicago or in Champaign, Illinois, or in Naples, and he's just letting them run this thing. Let me explain something to you. All that's over. I talked to him briefly. It was off the record, but I ain't gonna tell you nothing that was said that was crazy. I was talking to him about cruise ships. That, man, I've been looking at cruise ships ever since I saw Kismet down here about 4 years ago, and we were talking about cruise ships. But we got to talking about football just briefly. I said, "Hey, man, I like what you've done this offseason." He said, "Yeah, we got to win, though." I mean, as deadpan as it could get. Yeah, now we just got to win. And I'd never heard that before. I've never seen it that. And around the time I think he said this was around the time that he actually made the initial statement that they recorded in the hunt. It was around that same time. I had no idea, but I do know exactly how he was feeling when he said that. Is what's being resonated now. And I love the fact that he came back to it and go, yeah, I said it. And he means it. Why is he so steadfast on that? I don't think there's been a regime in the past, and I'm talking about since he has owned the team. There's not been a regime, and I'm not trying to take up for my friend Dave Caldwell. I'm not trying to take up for Tom Coughlin because I love him as a human being. I'm just telling you, he has given more leeway and more benefit of the doubt. Apparently, from the outside looking in, he has given more of those things to Trent Baalke, Doug Pederson. He's given them more than I think before. He probably used to hamstring these dudes a little bit. I don't recall there ever being like everybody just at least outwardly appearing to be as on board with everything as they are now over at the Jaguars facility. So I guess you got to give them credit for it. But yeah, hand clap for kumbaya and marshmallow making. That ain't why we're here. At some point, results need to matter. Results need to matter. Having sustained effort and understanding of who you are needs to show up. And I'm saying that the day after I watched Florida State just look absolutely terrible. And so I'm really on tilt this morning when I'm trying to tell you that what the Jaguars need to do, 9-8, 2 straight years, but the team didn't even look the same. They got to have an identity. They got to have an identity that is built on hard work, understanding of what you're supposed to do. Like any good team that wins, man, any good team that wins, college, pro, or high, they always seem to know exactly what they're supposed to do when things get tough. And they don't have this look on their face or this thought. The Jaguars look just like they sounded when they told us at the end of the year that they were sitting around. Everybody was looking around just waiting for the wins to just come. Just like, okay, when's it going to click in? Instead of actually going out and making it happen. I'm going to explain to you why winning is the only option. The only option. First, we're going to detail a little bit what winning is. Now, I know people are saying, well, if you take and score the team with the most. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about because technically they have won. They've won more games than they've lost in the last 2 years. That ain't what we're talking about. We're talking about taking this thing to another level. If they don't, I'm going to tell you exactly what's going to happen. And it's going to be 2 words. You're fired. We'll discuss that and more in segment number 2 here on Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is brought to you and sponsored by FanDuel. Man, it is that time of the year. I hope y'all didn't take a break from FanDuel because FanDuel has had stuff going on all summer. But now that football is back, man, America's #1 sports book is sitting there waiting on you to come and get the goods. You heard me talk about it all the time. But what you haven't heard me talk about is what's happening right now. I got a little something different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and the current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Make sure you go on FanDuel, check out all of the information, check out their over-unders for the game totals. All of that stuff is on FanDuel. They got the Jaguars sitting at a real good number, so you might as well go check it out. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. That's right, FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Thank you for joining us here on Locked On Jaguars, segment number 2, beginning here. Talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Man, listen, these dudes have to get it done this year. These dudes, I'm talking about the players, but you ain't going to fire a whole bunch of players if they don't play well. And I hate to be a Debbie Downer to tell you, but listen, I'm real good at hearing what somebody's saying and hearing what they're not saying as well as what they're actually saying. My man Shad Khan said winning is the expectation. We got to win right now. And then came back and said, you heard what I said. I was not misquoted. I was not misquoted is a very corporate way, a very nice way, a very billionaire way for saying what my mama used to tell me all the time when she felt like the need to repeat herself. And that is, if you go, huh? My mom used to always say, my grandmother used to always say, if you say, huh, you can hear. Y'all ain't getting that right now, but you'll get it later. If I have to repeat it, you heard me the first time. You just didn't want to think that you heard what you heard. I think Jaguars fans and media are actually happy that they hear what they heard because it means that we are no longer going to sit here and settle for just little moral victories. There have been accusations or finger pointing in the past that says that Shad Khan didn't care because the check was going to get cashed anyway because of the the NFL revenue sharing. I've always wondered how a guy who came from where he came from, working his way all the way up from the bottom to the point where I saw yesterday say he's worth $12 billion. He says he's one of the 6 or 7 richest owners in the league. That's a whole lot of winning, man. That's a whole lot of winning. So to think that someone would have their name on something, somebody like that will have their name on something, to think that someone like that who has won, I'm sure he has his share of L's, but those L's aren't considered losses, they're considered lessons. To think that someone could challenge a person like that and say, you don't care. You don't care whether you win or lose. All you care about is the money. Well, he's got money. I don't think he makes more money from the Jaguars than he does his other ventures. So my thing is there has to be something else. And maybe what you do is, if he constantly heard that criticism in the past, he's probably woke up and he said, you know what, there's a little competitive side of me, the side of me that makes me Shad Khan, the side of me that has allowed me to get to the point where I could buy the Jacksonville Jaguars and a soccer team overseas and stadiums all over the place and be involved with all these projects with the 4 seasons. You know what? I've been winning, and I ain't going to let these people just beat me. There's 31 other owners, and there's a handful of them that keep winning, and there's a handful of them that don't. I want to be one of the ones that keep winning, and the competitive side of me has woke up. And now I've delegated a lot of authority over the years to a lot of people. Sometimes he did it with limitations, from what I understand, with smaller staff, smaller front offices, maybe trying to emulate people like teams like New England that don't have a whole bunch of people all over the place because of the way they were structured and who they had on their team and who they had in their organization. But now we need to get like the 49ers. We need to get like the Chiefs. We need to get like some of these other teams that They have a lot of eyes all over the place. And then you got dudes in the building stealing $22 million from you. That maybe that tells you that your checks and balances are a little bit off. And perhaps one of the things you need to do is you need to crank up and hire some more staff and have enough watchdogs on the team. But what does that have to do with them playing on the field? Well, here's the thing. I think Trent Baalke and Doug Pederson needed to understand that y'all have years to sit around here and waste. You don't have years to sit around here and wait until things get better. You don't have years to sit around here and try to figure out when wins are going to come in the door and hope guys just take a natural progression of developing. You notice this year they really made a purpose to talk about onboarding. Onboarding. That means when young guys come into the organization and young guys come into the team, that they had to have a better program and a better way of getting them accustomed to the NFL through strength and conditioning, through an actual program where you can say, look, this is our plan to get you on the field. You need to do this, 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 and this, and this, and you need to be ready. Putting standards on players. And then you heard the talk, and then you saw the actual responses from guys like Parker Washington and guys like Tank Bigsby. You saw it. Defensive lineman whose name I have a hard time pronouncing all the time, so I ain't going to try to butcher it here today. But people that got in there and actually developed and went for it and got better and improved, and now they're going to be on the field helping the Jaguars play this year. Even some players that we all thought were pretty good got better. I think Tyson Campbell has improved. I think he's improved his conditioning. It looks like he's changed his diet. It looks like he's just more focused. And then by embracing new coaches and new systems. I remember Doug referred to the 4-3 as the old 4-3 people used to run. And you can tell his admiration for Todd Bowles and Bowles' defense because he went and tried to tap into that when he first got this job. And then he even made a compliment about Todd Bowles and the way that they play defense just this preseason when they had joint practices. So you know that he liked something, but then you saw the flexibility, the flex for him to have the ability to roll, to do something else and bring in Ryan Nielsen, who brought in Chris Richard, and now they're doing something else that actually benefits the talent on this football team. If they don't get this worked out, they're going to get fired. And by they, I mean Trent Baalke and Doug Pederson. If this season doesn't go the way they want it to go. Now, let's talk about that. What is go where they wanted to go? I think they got to at least win 11 games. I think if they go 10-7 and make the wild card and lose in the first round, they're going to be looking at them funny over there. They'll be like, one game? You mean you improve one game? Maybe it's also how they play. Does Trevor Lawrence take that next step and people stop thinking that he is not living up to expectations? There's a lot of things that could factor into injuries, of course. You're not going to be silly about it. You can tell if a team got better and then something happened that caused them to not get better. Maybe they get a couple of bad blown calls that keeps them from being a 12-win team. Then all of that stuff has to be taken into consideration. The main thing is whoever they are, just got to be that every single week. You got to make the owner understand and think that there's a plan, that you're not just sitting here. I remember Doug Marrone said this, hey, man, we just going to throw stuff and see what sticks. You remember that? If you don't remember it, I do. And I remember I came on here and I said something about it. What they want is continuity. Continuity that's good, because we've had continuity. It's just been continuity of being bad. Nobody wants that anymore. People want to win. People want to know that there's going to be a sustained effort to get better each and every week. They're going to be absolutely competitive. And Shad Khan wants that too. And I am so, so happy to hear him lay down the gauntlet. Brian Thomas Jr., first round pick this year. I remember I asked on draft night if he was the guy. Trent Baalke said, yeah, when we moved back from wherever they were, I think they were 17. Yeah, he was the one we were going to pick. They moved back a couple of times and they still got their dude. And I found out this week's opponent was that close. And you can't see my hand. I'm holding it about a half an inch. That close. The Miami Dolphins are that close, according to Coach McDaniel, of drafting Brian Thomas Jr. That would have been a disaster because they would have been picking somebody else here in Jacksonville. I'll tell you who it probably could have been, what probably would have happened if that occurred, and we'll do that in the third and final segment of Locked On Jaguars, but I have to let you know about this. Y'all listen to me now. The new Locked On NFL is here. Locked On NFL is now 2 shows every day. First, the Madman Tyler Rowland kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL Espresso, and then stop by the barbershop with yours truly, Tony Wiggins, for some real NFL talk. Add in the Locked On local experts, and you get unprecedented NFL insight, hot opinions, detailed breakdowns, all in 30 minutes. It's the new Locked On NFL, and it's twice a day. Make the Madman Tyler Rowland and the barber Tony Wiggins your second listen at the new Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And we will discuss more about BTJ and the expectations of this week, even a little bit of game talk from Doug Pederson. We'll hit all of that in the third and final segment here on Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is brought to you and sponsored by Game Time. That's right. Game Time is the absolute truth, man. And it is the best ticket experience you can ever ask for, because Game Time filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands and thousands of tickets. They have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even that much easier. Curated deals make it easier to find the best price on great seats, the super deal, seat views before you buy, lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and all that. Here's what you got to do, man. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code. I'll spell it for you. LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Today's show is also sponsored and brought to you by BetterHelp. That's right. Have you ever been in a situation where you just couldn't get yourself back on track? Whether it's time management, things bothering you at work, death in the family, even sometimes dealing with personal injuries and rehabilitation. Well, therapy can help you figure out the things that are hard to figure out, those things that are used to be very easy for you to figure out. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no reason or no additional charge. I tell you what, got me back on track. As soon as I started dealing with one thing and then something else hit, I went right back to therapy and it got me right back on track. Rediscover your curiosity and your creativity with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Third and final segment here on Locked On Jaguars, where it is your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. So I'm reading PFN, I believe it was Pro Football News earlier today, and they were talking to head coach Mike McDaniel. They were discussing that players, they wanted a bigger receiver. You think about Miami, you don't think about them missing the receiver. You may think about them missing the catch radius. And we're talking about them because they're this week's opponent. And Doug Pederson even said yesterday he thanked somebody for bringing it up. He said, you happy you're starting the season off with Miami? He goes, no. But thanks, I appreciate you bringing it up. And it's something like, I'm going to paraphrase, I appreciate you bringing it up and telling us how daunting our task is or something like that. And I said the entire offseason that with a new scheme and a new secondary and a new approach, this ain't necessarily the game where you really want to get this going before you can see what you have in real live action, right? Now, here it's going to be raining. It's raining now here in Jacksonville. Or it's going to be raining in Miami. So that may slow it down just a little bit and may fall into and work into the Jaguars' favor. But they might not still have some questions answered about those receivers. But just when you think Miami feels like they had enough, they were very, very close at 21 when the Jaguars moved back. The Dolphins were very, very close to drafting Brian Thomas Jr. in the draft. Woo! Can you imagine, as much as we've seen of him here with his ability to clear out and run through coverages and get deep and effortlessly look like he's the fastest guy on the field. Can you imagine if the Dolphins, instead of taking Chop Robinson, the edge rusher from Penn State, had they taken LSU wide receiver Brian Thomas Jr.? And then that would have given the Jaguars a hole at wide receiver and a hole at big playmaker that they would have had to address in the draft at some other point. I don't think they were going to take another wide receiver in the first round. It's not as if you just move to the next player at that position. I think what the Jaguars were going to do, and the rumors around it was they were going to take Terrion Arnold, who ended up in Detroit, the corner, which means that at some point they then have to look back at wide receivers. So you probably don't see Jarian Jones in the third round. Maybe you don't even see, depending on who was on the board at the time, maybe you don't see Mason Smith in the second round. It would have totally changed the dynamic and the way that the Jaguars would have gone about their business. Perhaps you probably, there's a chance you still see Mason Smith in the second round, and then they come back with another wide receiver. But that wide receiver, even though this is a good wide receiver draft, it would not have been someone with the upside of Brian Thomas Jr., not with the clear upside of Brian Thomas Jr. So it makes you wonder, does all that moving backwards to get an extra third and a fifth here, does it really, really, really matter and make that much of a difference? Do you really know what other people are going to do in the draft? Are you safe? Sometimes you can overthink this. And I want us to count our blessings that Trent got his guy and he was right about it. I don't want to, just because the guy was almost wrong, I don't want to come down on him, but it gives you something to think about. Like, if you're sure about your dude, man, just go get him. A lot of those picks that you picked ain't going to make the team anyway. So just go get the guy you want and don't dilly-dally. That's what I call it, playing around and not end up getting the receiver or the player that you want in the draft. It's just something to think about, and maybe moving forward. Y'all don't have to really think about it because it didn't happen, but the thought of how much this team loves Brian Thomas Jr. and how much the fans love the fact that y'all almost played against him in week one. You almost played with him in week one. The other lesson is this, that even though if you have speed and explosiveness, get some more of it. That's the Dolphins' approach. That's also my approach. I don't care how many of them we got. We'll get another one. And they'll keep falling off the bottom. Don't ever think you've arrived. And that is the point. They did that last year in the offseason. They're trying to fix it this year. Hopefully it works. Hopefully Shad's happy with the result, whatever that is. Does it mean 10 wins, 11 wins? Is it about how they look? Is it all about whether Trevor can stay healthy? There's going to be an assessment of this team regardless of what the record ends up being. The first thing I want them to play well every week. And I've made the prediction that they won't get blown out at any game. So the first time they get blown out, y'all can tell me I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But I do think, and I hope for their sake, that Shad Khan is more comfortable with the product that he sees, because I don't want him to start over. I don't want him to blow it up. I really want them to get off to a very, very quick start and make Shad Khan's words be almost prophetic as much as they were necessary. I thought that should have been said a couple of years ago, but I do think it goes a long way with messaging that I have criticized in the past, that, look, we got to win. Stop sitting there thinking, time ain't on your side. It's the one currency you have that's disappearing and depreciating every single day. We got to win, and stop thinking that you got all day to win and all day to develop people. It's something to be said about when the top man says something and everybody else can listen, follow along, and that can become the mantra or the marching orders for this franchise. All right, man, make sure you tap into your boy's new thing. Y'all know I retired from cutting hair, but I did not retire from the barbershop, because I try to bring it with me every day on Locked On NFL, the new Locked On NFL show. There's 2 shows every day. First, the Madman Tyler Rowland kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL Espresso, and then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Add in the Locked On local experts, and you get unprecedented NFL insight. That's the funniest thing, to see the videos and the shorts and then have us respond to them. Me and my guests, it's outstanding. Hot opinions, detailed breakdowns, all in 30 minutes. It's the new Locked On NFL, and it's twice a day. Make the Madman Tyler Rowland and the barber Tony Wiggins your second listen at the new Locked On NFL YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Rainy day, you guys be careful here in Northeast Florida. Please be careful as you move around our beautiful city. Come on, tune in tomorrow, man. We got some more stuff for you. It's game week. We're getting closer and closer to these things lining up. The toe meets leather. Lord knows I need some help with NFL because college football for me has been ruined this year. Thank you, Florida State. All right, you guys take care. We'll see you next time here on Locked On Jaguars.